Breaking news out of Chicago. ICE has turned the city into what witnesses are calling a war zone. Military helicopters are flying over neighborhoods, and chemical agents are being deployed against protesters. What's happening right now looks less like law enforcement and more like a battlefield. Last week, ICE stormed an apartment complex using Black Hawk helicopters. And now, according to the Associated Press, agents are actively firing tear gas and smoke grenades across parts of the city. Governor J.B. Pritzker has strongly condemned the use of chemical agents against American citizens, calling it completely unacceptable. Since the start of Operation Midway Blitz, more than 1,000 immigrants have been arrested in Chicago. And here's the alarming truth. Whether or not former President Trump decides to deploy the National Guard or active military forces, ICE is already using military-grade tactics and equipment. People on the ground say this feels like martial law. The situation keeps escalating. The world needs to know what's happening in Chicago.
Yeah, well, martial law is coming to America. Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and rule well. Peace and blessings and salutations be to the hopeful elect. This is another lesson through the Spirit. A couple of videos coming out. It says federal court blocks Trump's troop deployment to Portland.
Today we begin,
but they're talking about deploying a National Guard to Chicago due to it being an alleged war zone. As we know that ICE has touched down, I want to say roughly a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, detaining what they call migrants, which is the Northern Kingdom, which we told you niggas that, or you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, that war was going to be declared on you. Okay? So Jacob's trouble, it's safe to say that we are already in it. And we're clearly seeing the minute stages of it. Eventually, it will escalate. It's a lot of information coming out. There's a lot of stuff happening, man. You can't even keep up. Okay? But basically, Trump is thinking about he's thinking about declaring an Insurrection Act, which the Insurrection Act of 1807, it says, is a U.S. federal law codified under Title 10 U.S. United States Code that empowers the presidents to deploy U.S. military forces and federalized National Guard troops domestically to suppress insurrections, rebellions, domestic violence, obstruction to federal law enforcement when civilian authorities are unable and unwilling to handle a situation. It says it serves as the primary exception to the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, which generally prohibits the military from participating in civilian law enforcement activities, reflecting long-standing tradition of limiting military involvement in domestic affairs to protect civil liberties. But what you don't understand is that you have no civil liberties. Okay, you have no freedoms, to say the least, because if that was the case, then you wouldn't have ICE agents and National Guards getting ready to be deployed to your cities to foil chaos, man, which is all staged up. It says triggers for invocation. The president can act under the following conditions: upon the request from state's legislator or governor, if the legislator cannot convene to suppress an insurrection against the state. In this case, it's not the state. The state is against the federal government. So there's a division. Okay, you got this guy Pritzker and you got this guy Brandon Johnson, which is basically signing executive orders for no ICE zones, meaning that it's certain parts of the city that they can't come. And then also you have the Chicago Police Department that's basically standing down and saying, well, look, we're not going to go up against you. Like, we're not going to help you, but they have a constitutional oath to, defend their fellow law enforcement brothers, man. So it's all types of confusion and chaos happening. And I've always said that Chicago would be one of the first cities to see martial law. Now, peep this. Peep this video real quick. I got a couple of videos. And we'll get a couple of precepts and that'll be that. But war has been declared on you Israelites. Okay, you Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans.
States where tensions are simmering in Chicago after President Trump's administration authorized the deployment of federal agents and National Guard troops to the city. In the latest, the Trump administration on Sunday described Chicago as a war zone following a series of violent incidents and protests linked to recent federal operations. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem defended the decision to deploy 300 members of the Illinois National Guard to the city. Speaking on Fox News, Noem criticized Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson, who has been opposed to federal interventions and the ICE raids taking place in the city. Noem said Johnson City is a war zone and that he's lying so that criminals can go in there and destroy people's lives. The troop deployment order, approved by President Trump, directs National Guard members to protect federal officers and property. This follows earlier action in Washington, D.C., where the president federalized the city's police as part of what he called a crackdown on crime. After Noem's comments, the Illinois governor, J.B. Pritzker, accused the administration of worsening the situation instead of resolving it. He said the people in President Trump's administrations are the one who are making Chicago a war zone and urged federal forces to leave the city. In a separate statement on X, Pritzker said the administration's Department of War gave him an ultimatum to either call up state troops or face federal deployment. ICE operations have increased across several major US cities, particularly in Democrat-led areas. Raids have involved armed agents in unmarked vehicles.
Now, what are the chances that these things are happening in the Democratic-led cities? As you know, over time, the Democrats really was never for you Jakes, but these Democratic cities have been allowed to run rampant for this very reason here, because if you think the Democrats and the Republicans hate one another, then you're sadly mistaken. Even though there may be divisions among them, among the smaller delegates of those particular political parties, the hierarchy, they already know is part of a greater agenda. All right. You had the likings of Biden that allowed the migrants to come in cities like Chicago, New York, LA were all sanctuary cities. And then Trump comes and then he reverses it and say, you know what, y'all got to get the hell out of our country. But why would Biden let them in if Trump going to get them right up out of there if it wasn't part of an agenda? Okay. The scriptures say his belly prepared deceit. Let's get a quick precept real quick. Get this in Psalms. What is it? Psalms 52. This was brought out earlier, actually, I believe. But this is the book of Psalms 52. And I'm going to start at verses 2. It says, like tongue devises mischiefs, like a sharp razor working deceitfully. Yeah. Declaring an insurrection act, saying that, this is a war zone. Chicago is a war zone, and making a situation worse than what it is. That's witchcraft, man. Devises mischiefs that like a sharp razor working deceitfully. So when you get whiff of that, that's going to cause a reaction in people. And it says, thou lovest evil more than good, and lying rather than to speak righteousness. Thou lovest all divine words, O thou deceitful tongue. And this is what we're witnessing because, Chicago is a war zone. But, you got these ICE troops coming out there adding insult to injury. But then again, we really don't care because at the end of the day, you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you have been warned. And this is going into the curse that Jeremiah put on you over 2,000 years ago. We said, let a cry be heard from the rooftops when the troops shall overcome them, roughly paraphrasing it. Okay, Jeremiah called for the execution of the 2/3 because you so goddamn wicked. So we don't feel no type of way about none of you ninjas, man. All right, eventually you all got to go, including Esau. All right.
Conducting operations in residential and business districts. These actions have led to demonstrations in several states. In Chicago, protests intensified over the weekend after US Border Patrol agents shot and injured a woman. The Department of Homeland Security said the woman, who is a US citizen, was armed with a semi-automatic weapon and was accused in an intelligence bulletin of doxing federal agents online.
And Trump is going above Congress. He's going above the Senate. He's going above the Supreme Court. He's not giving a fuck, man, which proves he's a dictator. Okay, which proves that your Constitution is null and void because these things had to get approved of by Supreme Court powers or executive powers and judicial authorities and Congress and etc. But yet he's like, I don't care. I'm going to do what the hell I want to do. Okay, that's the cruel Lord that the scriptures talk about. Going to the book of Isaiah, the 19th chapter. And we're going to kind of jump around a little bit. Let me get that and I'm going to go back up to 2. Matter of fact, let's start at verses 2. It says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. We're getting ready to see this on a national scale. Right now, you have the civilians that's at war with ICE. But then again, when the famine and the collapse come, you're going to have civilians at a war with one another, you know, because something is going to happen that's going to set this thing on fire, man. And it says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. Hell, they was talking about, what's this clown's name here? Anton. It says air traffic controllers are walking off the job calling out sick because air traffic is federal employment. So they're not getting paid. Okay, TSA agents and all the harassing they did and shaking people down illegally, you know, declaring a big bad boogeyman from Nueve Once. You know, now even TSA agents are like, you know what, the hell with this? We ain't got time for this shit. We ain't getting paid to fuck with people, man. So they walking off. You know, and the federal workers walk off the job, then eventually they don't come back. Then it trickles all the way down to a state level and soon to be a city level. So eventually we all getting ready to be out of a job, man. You know, so if you brothers work for any type of federal or state agency, even a city agency, it's probably good to start looking for other employment, because eventually, you know, this whole system is going to really collapse when it's said and done, okay, no matter what. So
the incident prompted large crowds in Chicago, Brighton Park area, where protesters demanded an investigation into the growing use of federal force.
39th and Kedzie was a shooting earlier, a nice involved shooting. We want to demand an investigation because they are escalating violence. They are escalating violence in the city. This is not making anyone safer. These raids, and you saw like the raids that just did a few days ago, they were innocent people. They have not shown the need to go and terrorize families in the middle of the night, zip-locking kids, getting people naked in the middle of the street. Is that public safety? Is this public safety ended up with a shooting? Some being chased and now wrecked in a few blocks away from here? This is not keeping nobody safe.
However, President Trump's deployment of federal agents faced a legal setback in Portland after a US district court issued a temporary block on the use of federal troops. Despite the ruling, President Trump said that he intends to straighten the situation in Portland and Chicago as he vowed to crack down on crime and illegal immigration.
We're going to look at that. It was amazing. Portland is burning to the ground. It's insurrectionists all over the place. It's Antifa. And yet the politicians who are petrified. Look, the politicians are afraid for their lives. That's the only reason that they say, like, there's nothing happening. And you've seen it.
You see the division that he's creating. He's blaming shit on Antifa, which all these groups are set up at the end of the day. Okay, these pale-faced devils that you're seeing, they're the ones that sign off on all the crazy and all the confusion that's happening. Okay, we just read that, man, in Psalms, the 52nd chapter. But let's go to Psalms 64 again and get some information. Well, get the precepts. This is the book of Psalm 64, and I'm gonna start at verses 2. It says, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity." Okay, the workers of iniquity. Iniquity is sin on top of sin. It says, "Who whet their tongue like a sword and even bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words." Yeah, that's what these devils will do. It says that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. It says, and suddenly they do shoot at him and fear not. Okay, because at the end of the day, this is all an agenda to rope up the Israelites. Psalms 83. And it reads, it says, "They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privately or privily. They say, who shall see them, because their works are done in the dark." You see, it says, they search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Okay, which goes into mind. Hebrew word lob, which you Christians don't understand.
The place is burning down, and they pretend like there's nothing happening. So we'll take a look at the order. We haven't seen the order yet.
Well, amid the standoff, California Governor Gavin Newsom said that National Guard troops from his state have been deployed to Oregon without his consent, and that he plans to file a lawsuit challenging this move. With new deployments underway and legal challenges mounting, the situation in Chicago and other US cities remains fluid, raising questions about how the next phase of this federal crackdown will unfold.
Want the facts?
The latest development.
Check this out.
I'm 55, and here's how I ended years of persistent hair loss. Here are the 3 most harmful...
So Chicago's sanctuary mobs are trying once again to break into the ICE facility, and this is how that went. Oh! Oh, they're screaming. Oh, that guy's getting arrested. That person.
I don't really like this Cash Jordan nigga, man. He's a fucking joke. You know, I don't really know how to receive him. You know, he talks a lot of shit about our people, but then again, you know, Esau's a passive-aggressive demon anyway.
And so are these people. But look, this guy right here, he's about to make the worst mistake of his entire life. He thinks he can take ICE one-on-one. Uh-oh. Oh. Rifle behind the back.
He's not doing anything.
Whoa.
You're saying that.
Oh, what's happening?
Whoa!
And there's the takedown. Yeah, it didn't work.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah, he's defying federal agents, impeding an investigation, assaulting them. Get out of here.
All right, shut the fuck
This
up.
is breaking news. The President of the United States of America is being given the go-ahead by lawyers in the judicial system to use the Insurrection Act of 1807. This act allows the U.S. President to deploy military forces domestically. They will use them to suppress an insurrection or the obstruction to federal law with or without the consent of that state. The term Insurrection Act brings a lot of fears of martial law. Military control that will resemble martial law will be enacted across our great country. We will use troops for law enforcement. They will be patrolling your streets.
Martial law. Bingo. This is exactly what they wanted. And you dumbass people, you fell right into it. This is all they wanted the whole time. And this is like a soft, I won't say a soft because it's still kind of generic, you know what I'm saying? Because the news, they're not really reporting on what's going on. But eventually, these things are going to get deadly. And it says, and the spirit of Egypt shall fell in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols, and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits. And the Egyptians I will give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, says the Lord, and the Lord of hosts. And the water shall fall from the sea, and the river should be wasted and dried up. So everything that take place in Isaiah 19 is basically what's happening. Okay, it's like a page out of second edge of the 15th chapter. Let's go here. Second edge is 13, and I'm gonna start at verses 29. And it says, behold, the days come when the Most High will begin to deliver them that are upon the earth. And who is the them? The elect. It says, and he shall come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth. Yeah, because these people are perplexed right now. You know, and it says, and one shall undertake to fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, one realm against another. OK, this is what's happening. Eventually, there will be civil war throughout this country. They brought out a movie last year titled Civil War, right before we had that solar eclipse. And then remember the two solar eclipses we had that X'd out America, man, followed by the blood moons. Also, there was a movie that came out in 2023 produced by the Obamas called Leave the World Behind. If you brothers remember that, it's worth a second watch. Cyber attack hit the United States and chaos ensued. The Purge movies. And it says, and at that time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the sign shall happen which I showed thee before. Then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending. Okay. So, yeah, it's getting ready to get real crazy out here, man.
Arrests will be made in protests. As of this month of 2025, under President Trump, the act could be used indefinitely, without constraint.
They got another protest called No Kings, too, coming up, I believe, this weekend or next weekend. So those are starting to formulate now, which those can be paid agents as well to spark off civil unrest here. So keep your heads on a swivel, brothers. Be circumspect.
Framing an ongoing issue. They say that border crossing, Antifa, urban arrests, or urban unrest persistent to the actions of criminal activity could be deemed an insurrection by the president of the USA. There are no time limits on this Insurrection Act, no congressional oversight. It's very weak on it. There are some state lawsuits that could happen. You could see public backlash, but we are watching right now a great unfolding of unrest.
Get the QuickBooks mobile app. Simply snap photos of receipts, tap, and
The Insurrection Act gives the president the ability to deploy the U.S. military and federalize National Guard members to suppress any sort of unrest, to enforce federal law, to suppress domestic violence or the unlawful getting together of people, to take control of conspiracies that would hinder the execution of state and federal laws. Now, listen to what Trump has to say about it.
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
So, guys, we do have a very dangerous time coming near you for the United States of America. Governor Abbott of Texas announced the approval yesterday to send in the National Guard to enforce federal immigration laws. Listen to what he has to say.
We have these local states that are refusing to enforce the law, and we have chaos. Know this, and that is the president has the constitutional responsibility to enforce the laws of the United States, and those laws include the immigration laws. And the president has the authority to call up National Guard to assist in enforcing those laws. And that's exactly what the president is doing, and what Texas is doing. We're assisting the president in that cause. I want you to know, just moments ago, our National Guard, our elite National Guard in the state of Texas, began their deployment as they were loading on planes in Texas, boarding for flights to parts of the country where they will be able to safeguard ICE officials and other federal officials as they try to enforce the laws of the United States of America.
So I definitely want you and your family to be aware of what's happening. Don't be afraid, but please be prepared. Know that this could take a really bad turn very soon, because we do have politicians telling gang members to get into the streets and fight ICE. We have Trende Aragua putting out...
See, that's the freaking division of it all. That's all set up. So it says to suppress insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracies that deprive people of constitutional rights to protect under the 14th Amendment and obstruct justice. It says if state authorities fail to protect those rights, which the state violates that shit all the time. All right. Hell. It says before deploying forces, the president must issue a public proclamation ordering insurgents to disperse, but no congressional approvals is required, though the president must notify Congress within 24 hours of the invocation. It says the scope allows troops to perform law enforcement functions like arrests and searches, but it does not declare martial law or suspend the Constitution. Yeah. Eventually that will be the case because, habeas corpus is suspended. The rights go out the window. They can deem you a terrorist. They can hold you indefinitely. And that's what they're going for. All right. When shit escalates, even if they have to send these provocateurs into cities to create more damage and dress them up as certain demographics to do things that's not conducive to life, they would do it. Because at the end of the day, Esau has an agenda, which is really the Most High's agenda, to destroy this place. It says deployments are intended for genuine crises beyond civilian capacity, such as major riots or natural disasters or overwhelming local response. All right. Peep this. October 8th, 2025. Current context. Shit, that's today. It says in recent days, President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act amid ongoing protests and violence targeting federal facilities, particularly immigration and customs enforcement agencies, offices in cities like Portland, Oregon, and Chicago, Illinois. It says White House officials have held serious internal discussions about its use to deploy active duty troops for law enforcement. And they're going to blame this shit on the Israelites like they did in Rome, man. This same guy, Nero, when he burnt down Rome, he blamed it on who? Jews. He blamed it on the Israelites. And it's the same thing now because ICE allegedly is getting attacked and overwhelmed by the Northern Kingdom. That's a declaration of war on you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You see how Jake is always the fucking problem, man? This is wild. But it's prophecy. It says, White House officials, read that already. It says deploy active duty troops for law enforcement, bypassing restrictions on the National Guard's current limited support roles. It says, because the National Guard, they can't make no arrests. But it says this followed court blocks on Trump's National Guard deployments, including a federal judge's ruling in Oregon prohibited out-of-state Guard units. It says Trump stated on October 7th that he would invoke the act if necessary to restore order, martial law, criticizing Democratic-led cities for mismanagement. It says Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot have opposed the moves, calling them politically motivated to provoke unrest and create pretext for federal overreach, which is true. See, they even have a recent Lopos poll showed Americans oppose deploying troops domestically without an external threat. All right, so here we go, man. We in them times. Pete, 2 Esdras 13. Let's go here to the book of Zechariah 14, because eventually it will come to this. It is getting in the New Living Testament. Zechariah 14:1, it says, watch for the day of the Lord is coming when your possessions will be plundered right in front of you. When you plunder something, and you ravish, you destroy it. It says, I will gather all the nations to fight against Jerusalem. The city will be taken, the houses looted, and the women raped. Half the population will be taken into captivity, and the rest will be left among the ruins in the city. You see, and that captivity is the concentration camps. Because remember, Trump, he set, in a, I think ICE got like a $155 billion budget increase. And in the midst of that, there's going to be internment camps and internment facilities that's used to house you Jakes, man. See, so war has been declared on you Jakes, man, while you sitting up here playing games and acting like the Lord is a joke. No, man. The Heavenly Father is not he's with the smoke. Jeremiah 6, and I'm going to start at verses 23. They shall lay hold on bow and spear. They are cruel, having no mercy. Their voice roared like the sea. They ride upon horses, set in array as men for war against thee, O daughter of Zion. Yeah, against you Israelites, man. The northern kingdom, which proves that the northern kingdom, according to you all black Israelites, they are Israelites, man, because why they getting hell put on them? Well, they got business, brother. They Mexico. No, they don't, man. They manage shit. They don't run it. Amalek can shut them down, and Mexico don't belong to Issachar, man. You have a fucking puppet leader up there. All right, Mexico, they don't own it. And it says here, we have heard the fame thereof. Our hands wax feeble. Angers have taken a hold on us. In pain as a woman in travail. So go not forth into the field, nor walk by the way, for the sword of the enemy in fear is on every side. All right. It says, O daughter of my people, gird thee with sackcloth and wallow thyself in ashes. Make thee mourning as for only son, most bitter lamentation, for the spoiler shall suddenly come upon us. You see, and this is what Yahushua warned you about too. Going into the book of, I think it's Luke 19. We'll pull that. Get a couple more minutes of this, then we end it.
Active marked campaigns against Republican officials and anyone in this country who wears a Republican insignia or has a MAGA hat on. They are fair game. So it's time right now to go gray in that regard, folks.
Okay. All right.
Now, this is the Portland Police Department giving advice to these organized groups of criminals on how to avoid federal troops. Now, listen to what these people will do.
I'm the one who got stabbed in 2020. I hope he gets stabbed again.
This is a guy right down in the front saying, I hope you get stabbed again. People don't realize how dangerous this type of situation really is.
You ain't got the balls to do it, though. That's a death threat. You ain't got the balls to do it. That's a death threat. You ain't got the balls to do it, so keep yapping your mouth like a That's a death threat. Why don't you go arrest him?
Really dangerous time, folks. Please be aware.
Inflation is substantially above target, and substantially above target in all forecasts for next year. I mean, it's part of the reason the dollar's depreciated by about 10% in the first half of this year. It's the single biggest decline in the US dollar in 6 months in 50 years. Gold is at record highs.
There are some data metrics that suggest as soon as gold hit $4,000 an ounce and as soon as silver hit its breaking point, we were going to see a complete decline in our value of the United States dollar. It has been on a slow decline. I know you know it because you go to the store to buy something like a lighter, like I have here for starting fires. You go to the store and you buy this, it costs about 100% more than it did just a few years ago. You need something like this, which is a pulse oximeter. It's used for your first aid kit if you and your family are suffering from some sort of calamity. And what is it? It's about 200% more than it was. And they say that it's because of China, or they blame some other reason for why they jacked the prices up. It's corruption, it's inflation, and it's a purposeful devaluing of our dollar. Now, folks, I've got a video here that you don't get to see very often. We see news broadcasts say that ICE immigration is out there making sure that we only have English-speaking legal citizens driving trucks across our country, and this is video showing exactly that.
The government is banning this $39 electric lighter next month, and this is your last shot to get the original.
A little more. There you go. Where are you headed? To Michigan. We're at Michigan. 17, sir. Why?
All right, let's move on forward. This is a person who used to vote Democrat saying that if you look at the rest of the world where we have allowed the policies.
Okay, that's enough on that. Peep this.
It really does seem like we're on the cusp of civil war in this country, and as ICE teams are sent city to city, you're going to see city to city. Turn to chaos. I guess everyone's just going to sit back and watch and do nothing, as always. The Patriots have been sucked up by the MAGA movement in this country, and they're docile. I can't seem to find any militia group anywhere flexing on the weekend, training, doing anything, anywhere. Only thing that seems to be out there is something Fed infiltrated. And all anyone wants to do is hang out with their MAGA crew and take pictures and share them on X. No one wants to really get out here and address any big-time issues. And we've got it going down. Everything that seems to ever pop off is staged and manufactured. We've seen this for a long time, over the years, but right now it seems to be going to another level. And the big problem is yes, there's criminals all over the place that were let in, and it gave them the perfect excuse to clamp down with what some would say now is the rollout of a police state all across the board. And Chicago in the crosshair. And city number one, really, to be singled out and have an ongoing situation. We had the stuff that happened in California, but really this is an ongoing thing with Chicago. And also Portland. You could slide up number 2. Memphis has been mentioned. You better watch out. This could be coming to your neck of the woods. And
okay, so that's good on that. We'll come back to that because that's the lesson for another time. We're on the same thing, but, it just keeps the spirit moving because, now these are things we can cover, so I'll hold off on that because it'll be another lesson anyway. The same lesson pretty much, but it's an update, to keep the spirit moving because, that's just how the spirit works. Luke 19:40, and he answered me and said unto them, I tell you that if these stones hold their peace, the stones will immediately cry out. And he was come near, and he beheld the city and wept over it. It's talking about Yahushua, saying, if thou hast known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace. But now they are hid from thy eyes. It says, for the day shall come upon thee that thy enemies. Now he was talking about 70 AD, but we witnessing this all over again, that thy enemies shall cast a trench about thee and capacity round about and keep thee in on every side. and lay thee even with the ground, and thy children with thee, and they should not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. Okay? Jacob's trouble is getting ready to come. We already in it, to say the least. I believe we're in it. Jacob's trouble is pretty much here. It's here. I mean, I don't see this shit redacting anytime soon with these troops and migrants. I don't see it going back to the way it was, you know, just a couple of years ago. I don't see that happening. So it's safe to say that our people are in trouble. Jeremiah 30:4 says, and these are the words Yahweh spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Thus says Yahweh, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. But ask ye now and see whether doth a man travail with child. It says, wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned to paleness. Yeah. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even a time of Jacob's trouble, but he should be saved out of it, man. So with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you are edified. To the next lesson. Shalom.